Okay, welcome back. We're going to continue with Word Chapter 2, talking about moving over to formatting paragraphs, which is this group on the Home tab. The first thing we're going to talk about is what we would call line spacing. Line spacing is the amount of spacing that we have between each of our lines. So first I'm going to select the text, and I'm going to start from here because I don't want to get these first few. I'm going to start from here and I'm going to drag down. Okay. And I decide after I've highlighted all of this that I don't actually want this last line highlighted. Rather than having to re-highlight all of it with my mouse, I'm going to do a little trick here. I'm going to hold down my Shift key and I'm going to use my arrow keys, and that's going to allow me to arrow up. So you can see here I have complete control. I could arrow up or arrow down, and that just allows me to have more control over my highlighting. So if you're struggling with highlighting with a mouse, you can use the keyboard simply by holding down the Shift key and using the arrow keys. Okay, oh, that's weird. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to go up to, in the paragraph grouping here, I want to go to this button, which is line spacing. You can see that currently this is one, we'll do one space between lines. 1.15 is a little bit more. 1.5 is even more. 2 is the equivalent to, if you remember from our typewriting days, double spacing. 3 would be like triple spacing. Okay, so and you do want to pay attention here because there is a difference between 1.15 and 1.5. So pay attention to that in the directions, because I found students in the past oftentimes pick the wrong one, and then you're going to lose points for that. So in this particular case, I do want to pick 1.15. Okay, next what I want to do is I want to change my alignment. So currently these paragraphs are left aligned, which means that their left side is aligned with the left margin, and that's located on the paragraph group. This would be align left. Okay, we're going to be talking about align left, align center, and align right in a few minutes, but I'm going to go over here to this one that's called justify. And what justify does is it evenly distributes your text so that you have a flush left margin and a flush right margin. You see here that our margin right now is kind of jagged on the right hand side. But watch what happens when we do justify. It's going to put some extra spacing between our words, and it's going to give us a nice clean look on the left and on the right. So watch now. I'm going to hit justify, which you'll notice is Control J on the keyboard. And notice how it just gives it a nice neat look. It puts this proportional spacing so that you have a flush left and a flush right margin. It doesn't affect any lines that just have the Enter key hit, because obviously it couldn't stretch that out across a whole line. Now, I would say in 90% of the cases, justify looks awesome. In some cases, depending upon the words that are in your paragraph, it can look a little bit too stretched out. So you really have to, be mindful of that. But in most cases, I think it looks pretty good. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about is the ability so we just talked about line spacing a minute ago, where we said that we wanted it set at 1.15. That's the spacing between lines. Next, what we're going to talk about is the spacing between paragraphs. So remember, paragraph is indicated anytime we hit an Enter key, so that we have that inverted P symbol. Okay. So line spacing is affecting like the spacing between all the lines in the paragraph. Paragraph spacing is going to affect the spacing before and after our paragraphs, not in between our lines. Now, you see that it's not available, well, you will see in a second, it's not available here. So what we need to do is click on our paragraph dialog box launcher, okay, and that's going to bring up for us more choices. We see our alignment is set at justified. We're going to come back in a few minutes and talk about this indentation, but where we're headed right now is this spacing, okay. So we have the ability to, say for example, if we wanted to increase the spacing after, you will see that, and if you look in the preview here, as I spin it up, it's going to force the paragraph down even more. You don't see it behind you, but watch, I'll set it at 18 point and watch. Look at all the spacing between my paragraphs here, right? So there's a lot more spacing between my paragraphs. So I'm going to go back and I say, well, that's a little more than what I want. I'm going to set it up to be 6 points. So 6 point after, and I'm going to click OK. And it just gives it almost the look as though I had hit Enter twice, but I didn't need to. I just hit Enter once and I have the spacing between the two. Okay. Now, the other place that you can get to that spacing before and after, it's not located on the Home tab, but it is located on the Layout tab. So you can see here that the spacing after is still showing 6 point. Okay, so spacing after means, for example, for this paragraph, it's affecting the spacing from here after this paragraph to here. Now, I can also set the spacing before, which means that if this one has an after of 6 and this one has a before of 6, in between the two is actually going to be 12-point spacing. So you can see there it gives it a little bit more of an effect. Okay, I'm going to come back and set that to be 0 point, but I just want to point out that you can do that in either place. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the end of my document, and I want to show you a little bit more about alignment. I'm going to go back to my Home tab. So now I'm clicked in this last paragraph. Notice I don't have the whole paragraph selected. I'm just going to be clicked in the paragraph. When we were dealing with fonts, you had to select all of the text that you wanted to format. But when we are formatting our paragraph, all you need to do is be clicked somewhere in the paragraph because it's going to apply the format to that paragraph. So let's say I highlighted just like this little bit, it would format this paragraph, and this paragraph. So all 3 paragraphs would be formatted. In my case, I just want to click in this one so that just this paragraph is formatted. Okay, so next what we're going to learn about is center alignment. And the keyboard shortcut for this is Control E. The reason for that is Control C, if you remember, is copy, so it can't be C, so it just uses the next letter over, which is E. But I'm just going to use it here on the toolbar. And what that will do is center my text between my margins. And if I were to type more or remove some words from this, they would just be continually centered, which is kind of cool. Where do I want to? All right, I'm going to go back up to the top of my document. And this courtesy of Harborview Orchids, I've decided that I want to right align this. So I'm going to go here. Control R is the keyboard shortcut for it. I'm going to click right. This is super useful when you're typing letters and you type a date and you want to have the date right aligned rather than hitting space, 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 or tab, 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 tab. There's no more of that. You're just going to click on the date and hit right align, and it will quickly align it to the right side. And again, same thing, if I were to delete any text here, it would just continually have it be right aligned, which is kind of nice. Okay, next we're going to be talking about indentation. So I might actually save that for the next video. So I'm going to stop here, and then the next video will be about all the things you can do to indent your paragraph. So stay tuned.